Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Oh, yeah. Paul Feinbaum's not happy with Michigan. He feels like it's going to lead to an indefinite suspension. He thinks it's very likely. We're going to talk about that. He also feels like Michigan's season may be tainted.
Then, as of this moment, they're on double secret probation.
And we're going to talk all about that. Also, the response from Michigan, we're going to talk about that. They have sent a 10-page letter to the Big Ten, Commissioner Petitti, and laid out why they don't think they should be punished at all and that this needs to slow down and due process needs to be followed.
Please disperse. Nothing to see here, please.
And they did stand in front of a burning building and do that too. And this story's out on 11 Warriors. It's out on everywhere. Everybody's talking about Michigan's response and the 10-page letter. And Yahoo Sports' Dan Wetzel and Ross Dellinger obtained the letter Wednesday and published it Thursday, warning Petitti to avoid premature disciplinary action against Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh. They questioned the validity of Big Ten's evidence and shared his belief that the conference has rushed to punish the Wolverines because of internal and public pressure from Big Ten schools and fans. Manuel also suggested sign stealing is common practice in college football and alluded to reports that Ohio State and Rutgers shared Michigan's signals with Purdue before the Boilermakers faced the Wolverines in the Big Ten championship game.
That's not fair!
Don't raise your voice to me.
Something Ohio State's coach Ryan Day refuted Wednesday. He actually said that didn't happen. And they also said the conference should act cautiously when setting precedent, given the reality that in-person scouting, collusion among other opponents, and other questionable practices may well be far more prevalent than believed. And Michigan's President Santa Ono is very strongly encouraging Petitti to allow due process and the investigation to follow certain guidelines. And here's the actual letter. It says, "Dear Chad, please take a long walk on a short pier. Get away from us." All right, it doesn't actually say that, but it goes through a whole bunch of crap here, talking about, how basically they're not giving them the proper due process and that everybody pretty much breaks the rules and so on and so forth. It also talks about how the disciplinary action is premature. It says even if disciplinary action were permissible at this stage, which it is not, such action would be unjustifiably premature. There is no reason to shortcut a full investigation in favor of summary punishment. Then they go into the handbook that entitles Michigan to due process, a reasonable opportunity to respond, and an impartial decision maker. Talks about the scope of unknown disputed facts. At this stage is premature. About their notice of allegations or evidence that you do not supply. It's perfectly consistent with a benign explanation. You discuss at great length photos and videos that show stallions adjacent to and communicating with colleges during games. A photo that you have not sent us in which you claim Stallions was looking intently in the direction of the opposing sideline during a Michigan game and then gesturing to the Michigan defense in reaction, etc. And we've all seen that. So obviously they feel like everything needs to slow down and wait about 30 to 60 days once they get past the Big Ten championship and hopefully the playoff in their mindset, and then we can worry about all this, which if I was an attorney, that's what I'd be doing. I was like, what are you doing?
Now, Gomer's got you all keyed up again.
I'm not keyed up.
Due process, man. So, I understand their argument. It's not unreasonable. It's probably not going to fly, though, because you're in season and you've got every coach, every AD, and every president of every other school in the Big Ten screaming bloody murder because they feel cheated. And I don't think anybody's been cheated more than Ohio State. It's remarkable that team lost 8 years in a row to them, and then suddenly they're beating them by 2 and 3 touchdowns all of a sudden. And really some of the most, I would call this almost evidence. If you look at what they've done before hiring Connor Stallions as the off-field analyst, they were 69 and 24, which is a 69% winning percentage, which is not bad, but they had lost 8 straight years to Ohio State, and Jim Harbaugh was on the verge of getting fired to the point he took a pay cut. Then when Connor showed up, they went 21 and 1, and they're at 91% winning percentage. So a 22% increase. Their points per game went up a touchdown. Their points against went down a touchdown. So 2 touchdown difference in points against and for. So that's pretty strong that Connor Stallions is probably the best off-field analyst in the country by far. And instead of resigning, he should have asked for a raise, $55,000 to turn a program around from okay to fantastic We're going to get you in the playoff 2 years in a row. You're going to destroy your biggest opponent by multiple touchdowns. And Connor Stalions making $55,000 a year.
Oh, come on!
And Jim Harbaugh's making like $8, $9, $10 million a year. And he's about to get this huge contract. They should have given the contract to Connor Stalions based on performance. Now, based on rules following, getting a little bit of a gray area there. Anyway, but Paul Feinbaum is not happy. He is not satisfied with what he's seeing. And Paul Feinbaum said that Michigan's title, if they did win one, would be tainted without discipline for the sign-stealing scandal. And this is in USA Today by Prince J. Grimes. And Feinbaum said on ESPN's Get Up that Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti needs to suspend Wolverines coach Jim Harbaugh indefinitely. If he doesn't, Feinbaum said, everything Michigan does from this point will be tainted, including a potential national championship. Says if Michigan wins the national championship and Jim Harbaugh is given that trophy, I think the rest of the sports world is going to turn its nose in disgust. So Jim Harbaugh was one of the first people to give them grace, and then he later said it was the biggest mistake in his journalistic career was to give Jim Harbaugh any space on this and giving him the benefit of a doubt. He's ticked, and he wants him suspended indefinitely, it appears. And he also said, based on all the information that the commissioner has received, that he's heard about, that it's very likely that he will indefinitely suspend him. As a matter of fact, he said very likely. So needless to say, he's not made a lot of friends with Mr. Feinbaum. And this thing is getting pretty hairy. We're waiting on the Big Ten because Michigan's now responded within the 48 hours. Now it's a matter of the Big Ten, the commissioner, and whoever he's discussing this with to come up with an answer. And I'm sure he's making phone calls, he's talking to people, and trying to come up with something reasonable. In my mind, it's either going to be a 2-game or a 4-game suspension. The indefinite part, that would be a pretty strong statement there. That would be very strong, and I'm sure Michigan would go crazy over that. And it would be litigated immediately, and probably an injunction or temporary restraining order would be sought and probably found. I think finding a judge in Michigan would not be that difficult to give you an injunction against this.
I'll slap an injunction on them so fast it'll make their head spin.
For at least some period of time, because, look, in a court of law, they're going to see this as, hey, you're not following due process. You're just immediately punishing. And especially if you live in Michigan, you're definitely going to see it that way. So we're just waiting. It's imminent. It could happen today. It could happen tomorrow. I would expect it to happen before the Penn State game, but you never know. If they wait after that, then you're probably looking at a 3-game. It's just, this is very fluid, and nobody knows for sure. I've got my hunch. I'm still in the 4-game suspension mode. Sounds like Feinbaum's in the indefinite, and a lot of people are in the 1 and 2 games. So we'll see how this plays out. And if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's me know to continue to cover the SEC, the Big Ten, all this big Michigan stuff, and of course my Vols. And if you've not subscribed, it's on your right, my left. Just hit this little button right here. It'll help you get my videos. It'll come right to you. Doesn't cost you a dime. And right over here's the most recent video that YouTube thinks you'll enjoy. And we'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.